Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm coming to you with the "Why haven't I read these books yet" tag. This is a fun one I saw going around BookTube at the moment, and I wanted to jump in with my own version. The first question is about a classic book that you have not read but want to, and I have a trio here of classic Russian novels that I have had on my shelf for a while, and I don't feel like I can consider myself a serious reader if I haven't gotten to these yet. And I know that's ridiculous, but here they are. The Brothers Karamazov by Dostoevsky, Anna Karenina by Leo Tolstoy, often considered by many lists and people to be one of the greatest novels of Western literature, and War and Peace by Leo Tolstoy. So I've read a few novellas of Tolstoy's, like the Kreutzer Sonata and The Death of Ivan Ilyich, and I was very impressed. I thought they were extremely impactful, and so this is high on my TBR, and I got this nice new Barnes & Noble edition, and I was like, when I got it, oh, that's not bad, that's not as long as I thought it would be. Then I opened up, realized the paper is really thin, so this is 900 pages of tiny print. So this one's a chunker, and I think I'm saving it for a time when I don't have too much else on the TBR. I have a lot of spare time, maybe when I'm less in a fantasy and sci-fi mood. But I think this, out of all three of them, is the one that will interest me the most, because I love reading about sweeping wars and epic battle scenes and strategies and the human drama going on around those. So I think this one is going to be a big hit with me. But man, it's a bit intimidating. The next one is a fiction book. So I think they meant realistic fiction, but I have a few of those already on this video. So I'm going into some historical fiction, a little bit speculative maybe, with Bernard Cornwell's Warlord Chronicles trilogy. This is Excalibur, the third one. Winter King is the first one that I really want to get to. I've heard the audiobooks for this are just tremendous with Jonathan Keeble's narration, so I'm pumped for those. But I recently started reading his Sharp books, and he writes loathsome villains so well. He writes battles so compellingly, and so I think this is going to be a massive hit with me, and can't wait to get to it. For a nonfiction book, I have Old Path, White Clouds by Thich Nhat Hanh, who is a famous Vietnamese monk and author who is recently deceased. And this is a retelling of the Buddha's life, Siddhartha Gautama, and might not be what some consider pure nonfiction, like contemporary nonfiction. It probably has some speculative, mythic elements to it, but I started reading this a while back and thought it was written beautifully. I was really enjoying learning the full story of his life, or at least one version of it. And I didn't get very far, but I only know kind of some of the important broad strokes of the Gautama's biography and life story and the founding of Buddhism. And so there's a lot in here, and I think I'll learn a lot, and hopefully will become wiser through the process as well. So excited about that one. For a genre book, I think, well, every book is a genre book of one type or another, but I'll stick with fantasy or science fiction for this prompt. I have The Long Price Quartet by Daniel Abraham. So everything I've heard about this series makes me think it'll go over great with me. I should have already read it. It's 4 short books that are all compiled into this one omnibus edition here. So it's completed. It's an author I've really wanted to try, and so I gotta get on this. The Library of Alexandria has been praising this for years. It seems like a lot of booktubers I love read this within the last year, like Philip Chase and Nico and Andrew's Wizardly Reads, and they talk about how it's really deep character work, that there's kind of a very tight long-term plotting that pays off hugely in the final book from things that came all throughout. I love when books are structured very intentionally, and it's kind of not just all over the place from book to book. So really think it's going to be interesting. It's kind of, I think, Asian-inspired fantasy as well, so not the traditional kind of Western Europe setting. And yeah, really excited to get to Daniel Abraham. Lastly, the book I have owned for the longest time but have not read yet, and that is Shantaram by Gregory David Roberts. So this is one of the few books I bought in my high school years, thinking it just sounded really interesting and that I'd want to read it, but never got around to it. It's another chonker, almost 1,000 pages, and when I saw the buzz around this in the kind of literary fiction community in the early 2000s, I got intrigued when I read, I think, the life story or the kind of back of the book kind of thing, and I want to share it with you. So this is from 2003, and this is about Gregory David Roberts. He was born in Melbourne, Australia, sentenced to 19 years in prison for a series of armed robberies. He escaped and spent 10 of his fugitive years in Bombay, where he established a free medical clinic for slum dwellers and worked as a counterfeiter, a smuggler, gun runner, and street soldier for a branch of the Bombay Mafia. Recaptured, he served out his sentence and established a successful multimedia company upon his release, and he is now a full-time writer and lives in Bombay. So, if that is not a life that seems ripe for novelization, I don't know what does. I think this is just a sprawling kind of adventure story set in India that's based a lot on his personal experiences. So it seems like it might be really fun and interesting, but just have never gotten around to it. I had to really dust it off when I took it off the shelf. It's a little beat up. It has never been read, so it's been waiting very patiently for a while. And like War and Peace, I'm just going to have to be in a different kind of reading mood, have a lot of spare time to want to dive into this one, but I think it will have a big payoff. So that's my tag. I think I'm going to tag Kyle from Read by Kyle, Joanna, who I've been following for a long time, and Dominish Books, who I also really love watching his book opinions. So, hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.